Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Yasmin, editor features at ETHRWorld EMEA and ET Education for the Economic Times, and I'm delighted to have you with us today. This series shines a spotlight on leading CHROs from some of the most influential organizations across the Middle East. In each episode, we uncover how visionary HR leaders are redefining workforce strategies to build resilient, agile, and future-ready organizations. Our conversations dive deep into how these leaders are shaping the future of talent management in an era of rapid change. Throughout this 10-part series, we'll bring to you exclusive insights from key CHROs, offering a closer look at groundbreaking HR practices, transformative technologies, and the evolving world of work. Beyond discussing emerging trends, our guests share practical, forward-thinking strategies to help organizations navigate the complexities of automation, AI, and digital transformation. And today's discussion revolves around a critical theme: talent strategy, building versus buying in a diversified economy. So stay with us as we explore the nuances of this debate and gain some valuable perspectives. And to do that, I have the pleasure of hosting Chantal Schoombie, who's Chief Human Resources Officer at Aramex, along with Mrigank Tripathi, who's President Growth for PeopleStrong. A very warm welcome to you, Chantal and Mrigank. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Yasmin.
Thank you, thank you. But before we start the conversation, let me also briefly introduce our leaders for the episode. So Chantal is the CHRO at Aramex, and she has close to 18 years of human resources experience in the logistics and transport industry, with core experience in identifying talent, building outstanding teams, employee relations, and driving efficient workforce strategies. Responsible for leading the organization's people strategy and building a sustainable competitive advantage by fostering a performance-driven, collaborative, and inclusive culture across their global footprint. Coming on to Mrigank. Mrigank is a senior strategy consultant turned digital entrepreneur turned growth leader. He is a core member of the HCM business, leading growth and expansion globally for PeopleStrong. An MBA from INSEAD, Mrigank is a builder at heart. A serial entrepreneur, he has channeled his energies towards building companies, the latest being acquired and part of the PeopleStrong product suite. So once again, a big thank you to both the leaders for joining us. So, all right, let's start with something interesting. And Chantal, I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions first, and we'd love to hear your answers in one short sentence. So that's the trick here. So the first question for you is, what's the one skill you believe will define the future of work?
I would have to say enterprise thinking, Yasmin. There's probably a few that come to mind, but enterprise thinking, I would say, is top of mind. I think that ability for people to be entrepreneurial, recognize opportunities, take initiative will really play a key role going forward.
That is very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that, Chantal. So what has been one leadership lesson that has shaped your approach to talent strategy, Chantal?
I'd say collaboration. I think trying to avoid the pitfalls of taking a siloed approach, always trying to think holistically across your talent strategy is very important.
Lovely. And what's one thing, according to you, that HR professionals should unlearn in 2025?
Unlearn. I think we could do potentially a better job of being a bit more flexible when it comes to things like frameworks, processes. I think the world and strategy and talent is fluid nowadays. So I think we need to unlearn some of the frameworks and processes a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. And one trait that makes a candidate an instant hire at Aramex?
Attitude.
Lovely.
A positive can-do attitude, a willingness to learn. This is key for us at Aramex.
Great. Thank you. Mrigank, your turn now. I'll ask you a few rapid-fire questions as well. So according to you, Mrigank, what's that one skill you believe will define the future of work?
You know, this might sound a bit completely whacked out, but I do think that exposure and thinking for the AI world is going to be critical moving forward. And that's going to be across almost every single layer of the organization, as well as every single type of organization. And it'll be here sooner than we expected. So I really believe that AI thinking, and maybe that's not even a skill, right? In the skill framework, but I think that is something that you need to inculcate in most people.
I agree with you completely there, actually. So, what's the biggest challenge you have seen across organizations today?
Well, I think two or three, right? Number one, and I can bucket them. The first one I feel is a disjointed culture. What's at the top is not necessarily in the middle, is not necessarily at the bottom. And that's a huge issue. So you will see various types of attrition at various levels. So that's one big issue that I always see. The second thing that I've seen is the transparency that people actually have in the world today is not so easily available in large enterprises. If you're a 10,000 people organization, it's very rare for a person to be able to say, look, this is exactly what my path is going to be. So that's a second issue that we have faced. The third is just the overall thought process of how talent should work. Should it be in silos? There's recruitment, there's performance, there's compensation, there's X. Or should it be looked at as, hey, the employees at the center and everything is around that person, right from recruitment till the end, right? These are the three big things that I've seen, and that's what has typically, really differentiated a great organization from an average one.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for sharing. And according to you, what is that one thing that HR leaders need to really unlearn in 2025?
I would say that the standard approach that most HR folks will actually come out and say that this is how it is done.
Yeah.
You need to unlearn to be able to say that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that for almost every single aspect of the game, right? From why is attendance so important, to why does exit take so long, to how do I actually earn more wages, to whatever. I mean, why does it have to be that way? I think that's the single biggest thing, especially given the fact that today's generation is, on the go. They want things now. They want everything. So I think literally everything needs to be relooked at with a very fresh light.
Absolutely. Thank you. Final question to you in this rapid fire round. If you had to describe the future of talent management in one word, what would it be?
Well, it would be collaborative as far as I'm concerned. And when I say collaboration, the collaboration is between the employee, the employer, the manager, the peers, and the overall ecosystem that's around. So an employee should ideally be able to decide his or her path forward, and the manager should be able to understand where this person is going, and the system should be able to support both of them to move things forward in a way that actually supports the organization. And that really requires a very rounded perspective of the overall thing. And that's what we've been actually trying to do a lot more in the Middle East and elsewhere as well. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think that was an exciting rapid fire to kind of warm up our leaders, and also, now it's time to deep dive into our theme for today, which is the usual dilemma that most organizations face, whether to build talent, buy talent, how do you have the best approach to talent in a diversified economy. So Chantal, I'm going to come to you first with this. So the logistics industry has been under immense pressure in recent years. It's been dealing with global supply chain disruptions, the talent shortages, rapid digital transformation. In fact, reports suggest that by 2030, the sector will need to fill nearly 2 million jobs globally, with a growing demand for tech and automation skills. At the same time, competition for frontline talent remains fierce, and with attrition rates in some regions actually exceeding 30%. Now, given this landscape, this scenario, what are the core pillars shaping Aramex talent strategy today?
Yeah, it's a good question and not an easy problem to solve, right? I think similar to what was being shared earlier, it's about taking a holistic approach. So for us at Aramex, the talent strategy is that we look at how can we bring everything into one process, creating a seamless, inclusive experience from onboarding to talent acquisition to the end of the process, right? So for us, it's really that entire employee life cycle experience from the beginning until the end. And I think core pillars that we focus on to support that experience, and I say experience because it's not segmented for us, it is a ongoing seamless experience, is definitely the talent acquisition with the onboarding, the learning and development agenda, and certainly engagement plays a critical role.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Chantal. Also, we did touch upon the ever-changing nature of the whole logistics industry and its scaling in terms of operations or geography, but also in the nature of work itself. So, automation, AI, digitization are reshaping traditional roles, while at the same time, there's also an ongoing struggle to attract and retain the skilled talented. So, at Aramex, how are you ensuring that you have the right talent at the right time? And how do you become proactive and avoid always being reactive when it comes to talent?
I think it comes to that transparency we mentioned a bit earlier. I think you need to know your organization. You need to have transparency on your talent. You need to understand what is the organization strategy, right? Short, medium, long term. And then you need to be able to be very clear on what is the talent you have internally, what are the skills you have currently, what are the skills and needs for the future, so you can build that talent internally to meet those future needs. And of course, with anything, there will be a degree of, you mentioned the build versus buy earlier. Definitely embedded in that strategy will be an area or element of buying and bringing in certain skills and experience that you need on demand that perhaps you don't have the luxury of time to build. But I'd say it starts with transparency and strategy. If you understand what the strategy is in the short, medium, and long term, and you have good visibility and understanding of your internal talent, you can really mobilize it, deploy it, and build it to make sure that you are able to be future proof. And I think this also goes a long way from a retention perspective. If your internal employees know that you are people centric, that they are part of your strategy, they have career paths, there is a learning journey for them, you're willing to invest in them. This will help you drive retention.
Hmm. I agree totally. I think once is the part that you understand your talent in and out, you know their strengths, their weaknesses, and invest in them so that you can mobilize talent according to the kind of roles that are changing. That's very good. So first you try and build when you cannot, and there are certain roles you still need to buy for. That's where you look externally. I think that's a very interesting approach actually. Coming to you, Mrigank. So from your experience working with enterprises, do you see companies successfully moving away from reactive hiring, or is it still the default mode for most? And what strategies have you seen work when it comes to building a future-ready workforce, especially in industries which have very high attrition and fluctuating demand?
So see, I've seen three types of enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
The first, who's completely reactive and they'll say, let's just go and get a new branch manager or a new sales head or whatever you require.
Yeah.
And typically there's a bit of a correlation between technology and how well their data is stored to the type of decision that they're taking.
True.
So these type of organizations will typically not have the most sophisticated systems, and they might not necessarily be able to dive in and see who is the relevant person and so on and so forth, especially in large organizations. That's the first type. The second type is the CXO driven type. Hey, I have worked with this guy, get him on. I have worked with this guy, get him on. And that's a very, very common type of a person.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that, Chantal will sort of agree with me. That's a very common discussion that happens in boardrooms. We need this. I have worked with this guy and stuff. This type of an organization has some level of technology, but they're not sophisticated enough in terms of the processes to be able to use it, right? And the third type is the truly democratized type of enterprise, wherein you actually have the systems in place which will allow you to dissect and come up with the right person basis the right type of requirements. So somebody who's been in the organization for, let's say, 7 years, has been at a 4.5 and above, has done A, B, and C courses, has always been rated well, yada, 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 you will be able to search easily. Right. And one of my favorite stories again is of this enterprise that we work with, and I've said this earlier as well. They use that, and while the CXOs were trying to sort of push an agenda, they said, "Great, we'll take that input, but let's also see what the system has to say." And they did it, and they got somebody in from 3,000 kilometers away. I mean, I was flabbergasted. I myself was flabbergasted. This could actually happen, and it was just so empowering because you literally democratize talent. You're unlocking that real talent out there, and you're saying, hey, it's available to anybody and everybody who actually is or can actually fulfill that role. It's no longer just limited to who's known to the CXO or favoritism. And that drives a huge culture change across the organization. As Chantal said, your attrition will drop. They will understand that you value these things. All of that is a huge combination in this overall spectrum. So those three types of organizations I have seen. I mean, no prizes for guessing which is the most successful.
Absolutely. I think we've all guessed this right. And that's what we are moving towards also, democratizing the recruitment process, using data, using technology to find out the best talent possible and not just going by hearsay as people used to do in earlier times. So thanks for sharing that, Mrigank. Also, Chantal, we spoke a little bit about building versus buying talent in our earlier question also. And it's evident that there's no one size fits all, especially in a global business like Aramex, where you're managing a very diverse workforce across multiple markets. So how do you make those decisions when it comes to, whether you need to invest in upskilling internal talent, or is it time to bring in fresh expertise externally? So are there any specific roles or scenarios where one approach clearly outweighs the other? How do you go about it?
I think it comes back to the planning, right? So you've got your succession planning, and there's certain roles. I think you've got your manpower planning and you've got your succession planning. So I think a lot stems from, just these two exercises. At any good given time, you need to know what are your manpower plans for the coming future, and you need to know what are your succession plans. And you can link these two, so you can know, realistically, what is the talent you have, what talent can you build to have ready for these demands. And I think that feeds in significantly into your decision as an organization in terms of your building versus buying ratio. I believe there'll always be a blend, but whether that blend is a 50-50, 60-40, 80-20, this will really come down to your organization's maturity, its growth strategy, its size. These will all play a role probably in terms of that mix. For us, we are, we've been around a long time. Fortunately, we're established, we're mature. We're quite far on the building journey, right? So for us, that is still our priority. It feeds significantly into our culture. We have mobility was mentioned earlier. We have a number of success stories with mobility cases. So yes, I think that you just need to know where you're going and what are the needs of your organization, and ensure that you can, as far as possible, integrate that with your planning. And of course, there will be certain, we've got, it is ever changing, demands change. Tomorrow, something will happen that, was not part of the plan. So you need to be prepared. And where there is a skills gap or a new role, something that you could not have foreseen, or something that is not right now internally available in the organization, you need to be able to pivot. And it's extremely important as well, right? Because bringing in external talent, allowing yourself to bring in top talent that's available outside, people with new skill sets, bringing in a different perspective workflow, this remains always healthy. So it just depends what degree your organization needs that at what time. I believe this will be unique to each organization. As I say, at Aramex, we're strong on the building. We're heavier from a weighted percentage at the moment from a building perspective, but certainly buying is and remains part of our strategy, and is generally triggered where we can see there's a skills gap or an experience gap or a new venture that we don't have sufficient time to address from a building perspective.
So I think you very rightly said it's really dependent on the business, their strategy, their succession planning. There's no set rule on what works and what doesn't work. Depends on where you are, what stage your organization is at, and what's working better for you depending on the rules that are coming out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Also, so Mrigank, I think you've heard that, right? So there's always a struggle to strike the right balance, and all organizations do it based on their own needs, their business needs, their immediate requirements, whether they need to build internally or externally. So according to you, what should be the key factors organizations should consider when making that decision?
Yeah, I think I agree with Chantal. I don't think that there is any set, or there shouldn't be a set diktat saying that no, we will not hire externally, or we will hire only internally to be able to further the cause of the business. Because I think the business comes above most of these decisions, and these decisions are there to support the business rather than the other way around, right? And you can't put the cart before the horse. You do need to put the right horses to be able to pull the cart along. Having said that, I do believe that to be able to have a parity, I mean, one approach that at least I have always maintained is, why do we even need to look at it from a external hire versus internal hire perspective? What we really need to look at is who's the best for the job. If the person is internal, great. If the person is external, great. But again, you do need to be able to sort of bring all the talent that's out there on job boards versus all the talent that's in here inside your database, and then be able to match them across. That's a technical thing which can actually get solved, and that's again something that we've realized with enterprises is a big problem, and we've solved for that. And that's really helped a lot of enterprises. So, some of the largest enterprises basically use us to be able to say, hey, how I want to look outside, but I also want a parity with my internal folks. I want to be able to jump across both of them and not having to say what's internal and then what's external and then now do some external activity. No, just do the search, just put up the JD, it's available, and you're able to sort of search across your entire database of 50,000 people if you want it, as well as the 100,000 that's out there. And then, AI can come up and tell you that here are the top 50 or top 500 that you should really be looking at. I think that's really where the world should be moving towards. The question about whether this is to be buy or build should be more around the software rather than the people. So you don't need to really sort of worry too much about, hey, should I be, getting somebody from outside? If the business demands it, absolutely. That's what we should be doing that.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question to that, Mrigank. So you said that it's more about buying the software rather than looking at whether you should build or buy. So according to you, what role does technology play in enabling internal mobility and identifying talent gaps within the organization?
Oh, huge. I've seen companies completely change around in the past 5 years, just when they started to focus on talent as a whole, rather than as siloed processes. So imagine a sales. I'm just going to take a simple example. Say time the person is, performance kicks in, the whole career gap analysis kicks in, and so on and so forth. Everything is happening at a specific stage. What that does is, if you were to just now look at the analytics behind this, you're able to now see, hey, I need these skills, but these skills are the weakest in this specific department, because now you have the entire company mapped out. I need to now do learning programs or training programs for this type of a company or this type of a grade for these type of programs. The performance is dropping over here. How do I sort of support them with learning or something else, and so on? So when you bring data on top of the entire talent management approach and make sure that data is flowing from recruitment down to learning, to performance, to compensation, to career and succession, to OD, everything flows in one flow. Magic can actually happen. Of course, you do need a bit of discipline to use it in the right manner. And what it also does is it allows the employee to be that much more engaged, because the biggest question that anybody puts forward at the time of a pay rise or a pay hike or a performance cycle or when they're leaving is, I don't see a growth over here.
Yeah.
Right. If you can actually show them very transparently, this is what you need to do to be able to grow, they'll just go down the path. At least 80% of them will. So that's a big change that we've seen in some of our clients, at least when they've started to go down this path.
Great. Thank you so much. Chantal, coming back to you. So we know that logistics as an industry is notorious for its attrition rates, especially the frontline staff. So, nurturing talent internally can be a powerful way of, retaining high potential employees. So how have you done this at Aramex? How have you created that culture that encourages career progression rather than people looking out externally? And if you could share a few initiatives, that would be great.
Yeah. Definitely. I think attrition is something certainly we struggle with as an industry. I think we're proud over the last 3 years, we've seen a nice decline in reduction in our voluntary attrition. And as you say, it stems from a number of initiatives. And I think it really starts with listening to your employees, right? So I think it's understanding from them. We run numerous pulse engagement surveys across all of our organization, from our frontliners to the most senior people, to understand what it is that they're looking for. I think once you have a handle on this, you can then really create meaningful initiatives and strategies to drive your retention. So I don't think there is, a one magic trick that does it. It will be different depending on geography, depending on job level. For some, as you asked for some, practical examples, I think, flexible working remains for certain sectors of employees and levels of employees really very important to them. Learning and development we see as increasing every single survey as a demand in terms of what is important to employees. Employees know the world is changing. They know that AI is here. It's not going away. They know they have to upskill themselves. They want to upskill themselves. If you're willing to partner with them and, you know, take away the fear of the change of the world and allow them to actually be brave and engage in those changes and create platforms for them and learning journeys where they can get the awareness on AI and the different changes that are coming with technology, or even within their scope of work themselves. I believe that this goes a very, very long way in driving attention and motivation and engagement. We've seen, as I say, not just the attrition rates going down, but our engagement rates have gone up, right? So I think it's very important, first and foremost, to understand that. And then certainly on the piece you mentioned is the career pathing, right? And how do they get access to that? So we've invested, it started last year, we're spending a lot of time actually on that this year, is with systems, with data, giving, it's not only about us, right, in HR or from an organization perspective, having access to data to be able to take decisions. It's also for employees to be able to have systems that they can easily access, that they have access to the opportunities, right? To see these are the opportunities available in the organization. I would like to see what are the requirements for this role? Do I meet the requirements? Can I apply? And if I don't, again, if you have a very well-established system, it can highlight to the employee immediately that if the employee identifies these are my gaps, it can recommend learning for them, right? So that they can immediately start addressing those gaps. So the next time that they want to engage in that opportunity, they know they have a better chance of success. So I think it's about transparency and access for employees as well when it comes to their career path and their career journey, and helping them along from that learning and development perspective.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Chantal. I think it's so important to align their aspirations, their needs also to what the business is looking forward to when it comes to growth. So if their careers are taken care of, I think there's no chance that they look outside, and they know that they have a set path that's been created out them for them to fill up the gaps that they have, and then grow in their careers. So thanks, that's a great initiative. Thanks for sharing. Also, Chantal, technology, we know that has now become very critical, and especially AI-driven tools are increasingly shaping talent decisions now, including hiring and upskilling decisions. So at Aramex, are you using any kind of technology and into talent management, and what impact has it had on that? Could you give us some insights on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly I'd say AI and technology is a big part of our roadmap. This year, as mentioned, we have a lot of focus on two key elements. The one is the talent acquisition module that we use. We work with SAP and SuccessFactors, and there is a lot of AI offerings, right, for managers when it comes to competency-based interviews. You know, the system now automatically generates interview guides, ranking of candidates, shortlisting of candidates for HR. There is a lot of AI capability, right, to make the process more seamless for the HR professionals and for the managers. We're also looking at enhancing the technology and AI from our succession planning perspective and our succession module within SuccessFactors. It also goes over to we're looking also now from a compensation and benefits perspective and our reward module, right? So I think we're seeing also from our providers, right, the partners that we have, that there is a big focus on technology and them integrating AI into their technology to enable us to better, utilize the systems. And I think where you have gaps, where perhaps there's particular aspects that are critical to you as an organization, you have to be proactive and work with your digital teams to create these plugins, or internally in-house look at how you can develop these enhancements. But certainly I believe having strong partnerships with your providers and systems to take your AI and your technology journey forward in all of the HR processes and the talent strategy is vital.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Chantal. Also, Mrigank, I think PeopleStrong also is at the forefront of technology and AI-driven HR transformation. So is there a recent example that you can share on how AI has helped an organization make smarter talent decisions?
Yeah, sure. So, I think some of the standard things that were being talked about by Chantal as well in terms of what are the right type of skills to be assessing for a specific type of a role. How do you actually do the best of the CVs that you actually got, or the application that you've actually got, and how do you bubble them to the top? That's a big pain area that most companies face, right? You apply, you put out one job, and you get thousands of CVs in, and then recruiters are just sort of struggling to sort of wade through all of them and figuring that out. So how do you sort of just ease that process out is something that we're working quite extensively on. On the performance side of things, the other issue is it takes you 2 months to even have the performance metrics being sort of detailed out across the organization. How can you do that in like 10 days? Can AI help you over there? Top down and stuff. So the whole cascading bit, supporting over there. So there are a lot of initiatives that we're doing. One recent one was exactly the point that I was mentioning. The company that said that, hey, we get like 50,000 CVs, and they're like big, large enterprise here in India. And they're saying, but not more than 500 CVs actually get scanned. So we're missing out on 49,500 of those CVs, and they just go waste. What's the point? I said, okay, yeah, we can help you with that. So we're actually developing, and we just piloted with them, and they're quite happy with that. The whole scope of AI actually taking that entire process over. So the recruiter's job is only to put up the job role. And then whoever applies that comes in automates the entire process. After a week, you have a list of the top 50 or top 100 candidates that you should be looking at from who would actually fit that job. And this is after taking 2 rounds of interviews, doing assessments, the entire shebang, and you're there. You just got those 100 odd things. So that's just one small use case. But beyond that, there are lots of other things that can actually happen on the talent side of things. Even suggesting from a private concierge perspective, that's a demand that we've seen from employees. I want to know, what can I do? What are the potential roles for me? How can I do that better? Why is my performance dipping? What can I do better? So all of these are use cases which we're sort of coming out with, and I think it still requires a few pioneering companies to step up and say, hey, look, yeah, I believe in this, and we need to give it to our employees. We've just come across a couple of them, but yeah, I think more and more are coming up as we speak.
Those are some great examples. I think if organizations can actually, adapt more of this, sourcing talent, getting the right skills on board becomes much, much crucial and easy. But yes, you have to be sure that you're feeding the right kind of data to get the right kind of inputs from that AI also. But thanks for sharing that, Mrigank. Very interesting points. Chantal and Mrigank, we are heading towards the end of the interview. So maybe last 2 questions. So talking about future readiness, Chantal, so with automation and AI reshaping your industry, how are you at Aramex ensuring that your workforce is adaptable and future ready? How are you dealing with skilling and upskilling? And what skills are you prioritizing when you're developing or hiring talent?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have a corporate university. We're always reviewing the agenda, align with the strategy, align with obviously the C-levels. What are the core areas, short, medium, and long term? And I think, from there, what you need, you can embark on sort of that upskilling journey. I'd say the areas from prioritization perspective are everything from the AI automation. And I think there I mentioned earlier, we have practically, launched learning paths from the most basic awareness on AI, understanding the risks of cybersecurity, through to, really technical requirements from a technology perspective for the positions that would require that. At the same time, your soft skills remain as important as the digital skills. So, communication, leadership training, and then of course our customer services and sales, right? So I think you have to, again, you can't take a siloed approach. You need to look at the soft skills, the centers of excellence, what is core to your business, and ensure that you have very clear learning agendas linked to each of these, or learning paths linked to these. But absolutely, I mean, of course, at the forefront and vital on the table is that on the AI and technology. And there again, I think it's understanding what roles people have and what are their needs, and then making sure that you're giving them meaningful offerings linked to what will actually have an impact in their role. For the general population, definitely, as mentioned, you need to create sort of take away that fear factor around AI. and give that opportunity just to creating awareness around it and how they can embrace it and how they can actually use it to empower them, right? And that it's not something to actually be feared, but in fact something that they can use to exploit to make their jobs easier and to be more effective. So I'd say that's where we are, with our journey, is just really tailoring to how is it going to impact you and making sure that those initiatives are ones that resonate with the employees and can help take them forward.
Great, thank you, and I love that part about we should ensure that our people understand that AI is there to empower them, and the fear should be taken away on the fact that they'll be losing jobs based on AI. So I think that's also very, very interesting. Mrigank, what about your thoughts? How can you ensure future readiness for a diverse employee base, and what do you think can technology do for this?
I think I agree with Chantal. The baseline is, look, everything that you needed to be successful in a yester world, which was basically initiative, creativeness, communication, closed looping, and integrity. At least these are the 5 things that at least I believe were absolutely critical to be successful, is what you will need moving forward as well. The only difference is that the table stakes have changed. So if the table was here, now the table is this. Now you're playing on the AI field and the technology field. And every single facet of our lives will change. So if you have the creativity even now, you will be as successful in the AI world as well. And AI has to be looked at as a force multiplier, and rather than a constraint giver or something that's going to just completely do you away and stuff like that. There is a bit of a risk for that, but I think we're a few years away from there. When AGI comes in, then we can have this discussion all over again. But for now, it's here as a force multiplier rather than anything else. And I think on the general sense, just on the whole technology and also what should employees be looking at. Just making sure that they're themselves. Actually, one thing that I would say is that CXOs need to be told about the power of AI. One thing that I've heard very, very commonly across a lot of organizations is that, hey, our CEO doesn't really understand what all can happen with AI. I mean, nobody will say it out openly, but that's the fact. And if they're not empowered, if they don't understand what's the impact going to be, they will never plan for it. For them, business as usual is equal to numbers happening. What they're not realizing is that something can be done in a much more effective manner, less costly, and much more impactful. So I think at that level is one thing that I would really, really recommend most enterprises to look at. How can you get your CXOs to be the pioneers in AI in your organization rather than the feet on the feet?
I love that. Yeah, great. I think as it says, leadership, whatever they do, it cascades down. It starts from the top. So if they have that right approach to the way AI is being, is taking over workplaces, I think we'll set the tone right. So thanks for sharing that. Coming to the final question now, Chantal and Mrigank. And Chantal, let's hear from you first. So if you had to refine your company's talent strategy, what is that one practice you would start implementing, one practice that you would stop, and one that you would continue doing?
Thank you, Yasmin. I would say it is important to start collecting data or enhancing the data you have to have better visibility into your talent. It would also be important to continue to have a common language when talking about your talent and your talent strategy. And finally, I would say it's important for us to stop forgetting our why. Always try and remember the purpose and the enterprise goals when designing your talent strategy or reviewing your talent strategy.
Thanks. Great points, Chantal. Thank you so much. Quickly coming to you, Mrigank, same question. Start, stop, continue when it comes to talent strategy. What would you suggest?
I think start reverse mentoring. Get the guys who are completely out there in front of technology to start mentoring your managers and senior managers and CXOs. That'll have a huge impact on the way you actually run your business. And stop fearing artificial intelligence and technology and fearing that it's going to actually take away control or that it's going to jeopardize jobs. It is a force multiplier, and that's the way it should be looked at all times. And it's really up to your own creativity on how much you can actually extract from it. Continue doing keep focusing on talent. If you're not already, then start it now. But yeah, but talent will be the biggest war that you will always have. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, so agree with you. Thanks, Mrigank. Very, very well said. So on that note, it's time to wrap up this very interesting conversation. So today's discussion has shed light on the evolving talent landscape, especially in the logistics industry, and the balance that we need to create between building and buying talent. And as Chantal very rightly said, and Mrigank added to it as well, that it's about creating a very seamless, inclusive experience. We cannot be working in silos. We need to have a very holistic approach to your talent management. You need to have transparency on your talent, visibility of your internal talent, and that's how you can build upon them. So I think having the right business decisions, the right succession planning, having a blend of build and buy, because there's no set rule according to both our leaders. It really, really depends on business, and transparency becomes very important there. Listening to your employees becomes important, helping them with career pathways, and overall technology will play a very, very key role when it comes to identifying talent, helping them build the skills, finding out the skills gaps, and also how you can use AI to empower people more. I think these are going to be the future of talent management today. So on that note, Chantal and Mrigank, thank you so much for your valuable insights. I think your perspectives offer really practical strategies for organizations looking to thrive amidst digital transformation and amidst having the right balance between building and buying when it comes to talent management. Until next time, let's keep reimagining the future of workforce and talent together. So once again, thank you, Chantal and Mrigank. It was a pleasure hosting you for this episode today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And a big, big thank you to our wonderful guests who are watching this episode, Reimagining Workforce and Talent, on the theme Talent Strategy, Building versus Buying in a Diversified Economy with ETHRWorld EMEA and PeopleStrong. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes. Until then, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.